there's going to be some pretty good players that move in the next 2 to 3 weeks. I would love to see the Lakers get their hands on 1 or 2 of them. But others, people you know and respect, they think the Lakers are fine with what they've got.
Si no lo sientes, no lo entiendes.
Familia Púrpura y Oro, ¿cómo se encuentran todos y todas? Nos causa mucha ilusión presentarles la primera entrevista acá en Pinto Lakers. La primera entrevista que vamos a tener de lo que espero y esperamos serán muchas más, hablando de todo el mundo Púrpura y Oro. Y esta primera entrevista es con alguien a quien respeto, admiro y aprecio muchísimo, John Ireland.
John Ireland, Michael Thompson with you in Brooklyn. 5 seconds left. Drive towards the basket. He got there. Lay it in. Austin did it. He won the game.
Alguien que ha trabajado con el equipo por casi 25 años. Comenzó el 2002 como reportero de cancha, hizo ese trabajo hasta el 2011 y desde el 2012 en adelante John Ireland ha sido la voz de los partidos de Lakers para la radio en inglés en Estados Unidos.
In a year we all thought we wanted to forget. The Lakers give us something to remember forever. The Lakers are the world champions.
Ahí trabaja con Michael Thompson como su analista. Es impecable el trabajo que realizan ambos. Y les reitero, John es uno de los mejores seres humanos que he conocido en este negocio, literalmente. Así que realmente es un placer tenerlo a él como nuestro primer invitado en Pinto Lakers. Hablamos de tantas cosas que tuvimos que dividir la entrevista en 2 partes. En la primera vamos a hablar de la actualidad del equipo, la que les presento hoy. Vamos a hablar de Jarred Vanderbilt y su potencial regreso, de la llegada de Finney-Smith, de lo que ha sido Max Christie, Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura en esta temporada, de las reales posibilidades que tiene el equipo de competir así como está, o si se necesitan incorporaciones, de lo que ha sido el trabajo de JJ Redick en su primera temporada. Así que, sin más preámbulo, los dejo con la primera parte de mi entrevista con el gran John Ireland. John, I was telling the audience that for me, it's really special to have you, as my first guest in this channel of Pinto Lakers. You are one of the greatest human beings that I have met in this business. John Ireland is the one that calls. He's the one that checks on you. He's the one that goes the extra mile trying to help you. And quite honestly, John, is infuriating because you leave the bar way too high for the rest of the friends in your life, and it's impossible to follow. So, yeah, thanks, pal. I just realized that you messed up my life.
I am very happy to be here and honored to be your first guest. I always say, Francisco, that the hardest thing about my job, and I have a great job, is that you get to make friendships and get to know people, whether they be players, coaches, broadcasters, and because you live in this world, you get to know everybody, you bring them into your life, and then because of circumstances beyond anyone's control, it changes. And so it was a great pleasure to travel with you. I think we did it for 8 or 9 years, didn't we?
Yeah. Yep.
We miss you guys, you and Adrian, who have gone on to bigger and better things now that you're doing the Chargers. Now that you're in the NFL, which is like the greatest sports league ever. But we miss having you guys, and it was a great pleasure to get to take that ride with you for all those years.
Well, John also, so family, he's the only one in that entire crew that could give me a run for my money when it comes down to eating enormous, unhealthy amounts of food. This guy can eat. You see him, this guy can put some food away. And we had some really good duels with Ireland, my friend.
You're in a class by yourself, my man. You're the only one that I would go into and say, can't beat him. I kind of felt like Phil Mickelson going up against Tiger. I can beat everyone else. I just could never beat you. But we've got a bunch of, if either one of us, next time you see us, ask us tales of Gus's fried chicken in Memphis. Francisco and I left our mark there and in many other places.
Legendary, absolutely legendary. Yeah, this guy is more than worthy competitor, I would say. John, let's talk some Lakers. ¿Cómo has visto la temporada del equipo?
It is frustrating, Francisco, in the sense that they've shown flashes of what I think they can be. They got off to a really good start. They won their first 3 games. And they've had these dips in the road that you really can't explain, where they've just stopped playing defense. Now, the good news is that they've shown they have the club in their bag to compete with some of the elite teams in the league. But they could just as easily come up short against a bad team. We had a game last week in Dallas where they didn't have Luka and they didn't have Kyrie, and they beat us pretty easily. They beat us by like 20. I know any of the Lakers would tell you, JJ Redick would tell you, that's not where they need to be. Now, the good news is, and LeBron said it the other day, they've got a lot of time to work this out. The West is so loaded, Francisco, that I think what we're looking at is Oklahoma City at the top, and then probably 9 or 10 teams after that, they're going to win between 45 and 50 games. So you have a margin for error here where you can lose some of those games like I talked about in Dallas and still make the playoffs. Now, the Lakers right now are in 6. I would love if they could stay 6 or better, because then they wouldn't have to play in the play-in tournament.
Mm-hmm.
You know, ever since you left, we've either been out of the playoffs or in this play-in tournament, and it just makes the road harder. One year, they made it all the way to the Western Conference Finals, but by the time they got there, they got swept by Denver. And I think part of it was because they were exhausted by making that run. So I think they have a chance to find themselves and make a run, but I would steal a page from LeBron. He said it the other day. They're not a championship team right now. But as you know, Francisco, because you did this with me for so long, the team you are in January is not necessarily the team you are in April. And there is such a thing as peaking too early. So you and I are taping this the day after Cleveland and Oklahoma City played. And right now, those two teams look unbeatable. Like nobody can hang with them. But I wonder if those teams are peaking too early, if they're going to be this good in April. And so hopefully we get better. They come down a little bit and we can make a run.
¿Qué te ha parecido el trabajo de JJ en su primera temporada?
He's taken to it very quickly. He's never coached before, so nobody knew how he would be. He's kind of like what I would compare to Pancho is Mike Trudell. You know how Trudell, we always used to joke, we don't need to look things up on Google because we have Trudell. That's JJ as a coach. I mean, there isn't anything he hasn't seen, hasn't considered. He's kind of a savant, and he's hired a staff of people that he self-describes as basketball sickos. These are people that get up and start drawing plays on napkins, or before they go to sleep, they'll wake up and type a note into their phone of something that they thought of. So they're constantly tinkering, constantly tweaking. I think the smartest thing JJ did was he put 2 guys on the bench that used to be NBA head coaches, Scott Brooks and Nate McMillan. So if something happens in a game that JJ hasn't seen or didn't see coming, chances are Nate or Scott will have seen it, and they would have seen it coming. Nate really runs the majority of the defense. Scott runs the bench. When you see substitutions go in, JJ's not really doing that. Scott's doing that. So he not only hired the right people, but he uses them. He's not; those guys aren't afraid to tell him he's doing something wrong, and he's willing to accept that. So I think he's got a chance to be a really good coach. Time will tell.
Hace un mes aproximadamente, John, yo decía, a Oklahoma City no se le ganan 4 partidos. Pero de ahí en más, tal vez Denver, que no le podemos ganar nunca, yo veía una conferencia muy apretada. Ahora está un poco, no sé si pienso lo mismo. In the East, call me crazy, I still think that the title of the East goes through Boston for an experience factor. Yeah. Although Cleveland is clearly the better team right now. We'll see what happens in the playoffs, And New York Knicks, they have something to say or something like that. But I don't feel the same way anymore in terms of, the Lakers can hang with most everybody. Is that the way you feel, or you alluded to the question already and you said we might be a completely different team by the end of the season?
Right. To answer your question, you're right. No. If we got into a 7-game series right now with Oklahoma City, we might win 1 game. But we got 2 months to figure it out. And Francisco, as you know, we normally do something at the trade deadline. Now, we already made 1 trade when they traded D'Angelo Russell to Brooklyn for Dorian Finney-Smith and Shake Milton. I wouldn't be surprised if we make another one. And if we make another one, I think it would maybe increase our size. We'd maybe get a big man, which would allow Anthony Davis to slide down to the 4. It may happen, it may not. But our hope is that this team with a first-year head coach and a first-year coaching staff and some new parts by way of this trade hits their stride end of March, beginning of April. That's our best shot. But for you to say you're not confident right now that they can hang with Oklahoma City, you're 100% right. LeBron said it. You know, they're not a championship team right now. But what they're hoping and kind of banking on is that 2 months from now, I might have a different answer.
Do you think they can improve it with what they have already, or they need that extra, maybe 2 bodies, you know, one on the paint,
Right.
Another shooter? I don't know what you see there.
It's funny you should ask me this particular question, because the other day on Mason and Ireland, the radio show that I do, Michael Thompson and Mike Trudell were in studio. They think the Lakers have what they need. They think the Lakers should not make any big moves, keep the guys they have, see if they can make them better and make a run. Mason and I both think that's crazy, that you have to make a move. You only have LeBron and AD for 1 to 2 more years together. As long as you have those guys, Francisco, you can make a run because they're so good. I think that when you look at all the teams out there that want to get this Cooper flag, this number 1 pick out of Duke, there's going to be some pretty good players that move in the next 2 to 3 weeks. I would love to see the Lakers get their hands on 1 or 2 of them. So I'm in the second camp. I think that they should turn over every rock and see if they can bring in some help. But others, people you know and respect, guys like Thompson and Trudell, they think the Lakers are fine with what they've got.
El otro día JJ probó un par de minutos a Hayes con AD en la cancha. Lo que me dijo, tal vez no está casado con una idea. Maybe thinking in the future, if we get another big, this actually could work.
It's interesting that you noticed that, because when you look at the Lakers moving forward, JJ has already come out and said he's going to do that more often. What he doesn't like, Francisco, is he doesn't like getting beat in the rebounding battle, particularly the offensive rebounding battle. And so whenever that happens, I think he thinks about going with that twin tower lineup that you talked about. So I can tell you were a basketball announcer for 9 years, because he noticed the same thing you noticed, that the other team, in this case Miami, had trouble with that. And I think he's already said he's going to do more of it. As you see these games moving forward, I think you're going to see at least part of the game, 2 bigs out there for, I don't know how long it'll be. It might only be 5-6 minutes, but you're going to see it moving forward.
Max Christie, what do you think of him?
He is the most improved player on our team. He likes playing defense, which we need. We need good on-ball defenders. He, like the other day, Tyler Hero was lighting us up. And they put Max in the game and Gabe Vincent with him and said, all right, you 2 guys take Tyler Hero out of this because he's killing us. And they did. So people forget, Francisco, he's only 23. He is a good shooter and he likes to play defense. So, and which we need. Our defense is, when we lose games, it's because our defense fell apart. And so because Max is a defense first guy and he's athletic, and if you leave him open, he can make some threes. I think everything kind of changed with our starting lineup when he went into it. When he went into it, the Lakers went on a quick run. They won 8 out of 10 games. They've kind of reverted over the last few games. But one of the reasons for that is Dorian Finney-Smith's girlfriend had a baby. But when we get him back and we were able to concentrate on a defense-first mentality, I think Christie's a big part of that. And as you know, he's a good guy. So, that helps too.
¿Te gusta Austin Reeves en esta función de point guard?
Yeah, I never saw him that way, Francisco. I saw him as a 2 guard. I saw him as a shooting guard who would give you a lot of effort. He was a good passer. What I've noticed lately is he can be a great passer. I mean, his assists are basically his assist totals have doubled since they made him the point guard. And he doesn't turn the ball over, which I was worried about. You know, if you take a guy whose usage rate is low, like Austin's, and you're playing off the ball, and all of a sudden you hand him the ball and say, you are the point guard, and your usage rate triples, you would think a lot of turnovers would come with that. But he hasn't done that. He's taking care of the ball. He's a good passer. He's maybe the best outside shooter on our team. And so for all those reasons, it's working. And it's the old thing, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Because I think since they moved him to the point guard, our team assists have gone up, his assists have gone up, and he's turned into a really good passer. The other night, Michael and I were doing the game, and we looked up at the end of the game, and he had 14 assists.
Uh-huh. Yep.
And he's been doing that a lot. He's been doing double assist games a lot. So I'm actually surprised it's working. I don't know if I would have thought to try it, but JJ sees him every day. He thought to try it. Now I think it's here to stay. I think he's doing really well.
John, vamos a ir a los grandes, AD, LeBron, en un instante. Esta es una pregunta que a mí me interesa porque yo lo he estado pensando. Dorian Finney-Smith por Hachimura. En vez de salir de la banca, que juegue de titular. In terms of a defensive identity, you know, Hachi played a great game against Miami, maybe his best game as a Laker, you know, and when he plays that way, okay, leave him there. But he's not the most consistent player, especially defensively. And if you want to establish your defensive identity, you have a great guy on the bench that, to me, you know, should be starting.
If Michael Thompson were sitting here with us, what he would say is, it doesn't matter who starts. It's more important who finishes. I don't think Dorian Finney-Smith cares if he starts. My sense of Rui, Francisco, is that if you take him out of the starting lineup, you may lose the rhythm that he showed you the other night when he had those 23 points. I think Rui, let's put it this way. Dorian's a better defender. Rui is better offensively. Mm-hmm. And so if you have Rui out there with LeBron and AD command a double team. As soon as they get the ball, they normally get a second defender going over to them. And that means somebody else is open. Now, Dorian's a good shooter, especially from three, but Rui can not only make threes, but he can take the ball into the paint. He has a good mid-range game. If you forget about him, he can hurt you. That's what he showed the other night against Miami. So I don't know if I would start Dorian, but to your point, I want Dorian to play at least as many minutes as Rui and maybe more if the defense is not, like the other night in the first half, we gave up 66 points in the first half.
Yep.
In the second half, we gave up 42 because JJ read him the riot act at halftime and got those guys to go in there and play defense. So I don't know if I would start Finney-Smith. I've suggested it too on the radio, but I would increase his playing time. And I wouldn't be afraid to have him out there in the finishing lineup if the game needed defense. So that's kind of the way I look at it. But by the way, you're not wrong. If JJ came out tomorrow and said, we're going to start Finney-Smith and bring Rui off the bench, I would just read that as they need more defense. And he's doing it for defensive reasons. So it absolutely could happen. I probably wouldn't do it right now, but it could happen, and it could happen soon.
¿Cómo ves el rol de Vando regresando al equipo?
Well, the first thing I would say is if he comes back. You know, we've been waiting a long time for Vando. He had, I don't know if most Laker fans know this, he had surgery on both of his feet last summer, both of them. So his road to recovery is not as cut and dried as everybody seems to think. Like everybody asks me all the time, well, I hear Vanderbilt's running on a treadmill. Are we going to see him soon? And if you watch the way JJ answers those questions, he'll always say, no, you know, we're ramping him up. I think what they're hoping, Francisco, is to get him back maybe next month. This month would be a bonus. You know, you and I are taping this in the middle of January.
Yeah.
If we get him back by February and he has a month or two to ramp up, I think he'd be a good weapon for us. If he comes back in March or April, I don't know if that's enough time to implement him into the scheme, and it would be different. When he's right, and he hasn't been right for a long time, he's arguably our best defender outside of AD. AD is the best defender on the team, Anthony Davis, and Vando is probably second. But he's got to get healthy, and he isn't. The first question you ask about him is, where is his health, and how realistic is it that we can see him this year? I think we will see him. I'm probably 75-25 that he's going to play. But if you came to me and said, you know what, he could just never get his conditioning, never get his feet right, I wouldn't be shocked. So we're being cautiously optimistic about Vanderbilt.
Porque yo he pensado en situaciones defensivas, cuando tienes que ganar con defensa, lo que sería Vanderbilt en este equipo, en esta alineación. And if you need to play defense and to win the defensive battle at the end of a game, I see LeBron as the one, Christie as the two, Finney-Smith at the 3, Vando at the 4, and AD at the 5, and you have a tremendous defensive team. Yeah, you might be suffering from some spacing on offense, but if you really want to clamp down on defense, those 5 can, because LeBron is more protected there. We know that LeBron cannot defend the way he used to at 40 years old, but he still can do it in specific parts of the game.
I don't know. I don't even know if you did it, but you just explained why the Lakers like their current roster, because those 5 people that you mentioned, you can switch everything. The one matchup you maybe wouldn't want would be Austin guarding a center.
Yep.
Particularly a team like that would have like Jokic or something. But all 4 of those other guys are interchangeable. And so once you do that, Francisco, if you have 4 guys that you can, this is what the Warriors were so successful at in their championship window years. Other than Steph, they had Clay, they had Iguodala, they had Draymond, they had Kevon Looney, and those guys could all switch on to everybody else's guy, and they just protected Steph. You can do that if you're the Lakers with that particular lineup that you discussed, that you can switch on to people and try some different defenses. So positionality here is a thing. And you just described the perfect defensive lineup if you want to switch. And JJ likes switching. So okay. I think if Vando gets healthy, I think you'll see the exact lineup you said for at least long stretches of games and maybe more.
Muy bien, ojalá les haya gustado. Si así fue, les pido por favor, aprieten ese botoncito de suscripción, dejen el like, nos ayuda muchísimo. Esa es la realidad. Con eso nosotros podemos garantizar que vamos a seguir muy comprometidos en este trabajo, que vamos a seguir generando el contenido del más alto nivel posible y realmente necesitamos de eso. Necesitamos de esa parte que nos den ustedes, que nos regalen ese like, que nos regalen esa suscripción, porque la verdad nos ayuda muchísimo lo que estamos tratando de generar acá en este canal de Pinto Lakers. Para la segunda parte de esta entrevista nos vamos a concentrar en LeBron, en Anthony Davis, en el futuro de Lakers. Cuando ya no esté más LeBron en el equipo, vamos a hablar del estado actual de la NBA, que ha sido tema de muchísima discusión en las últimas semanas, y también vamos a hablar un poquitito del gran Kobe Bryant y anécdotas, momentos muy especiales que compartió John Ireland conmigo, porque John puede hablar 4 horas de anécdotas de Kobe Bryant y les aseguro que se quedaría corto en el tiempo. Hasta acá llegó esta edición de Pinto Lakers.